All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to Warrior Women in Business podcast episode number 42. It's been a long time. Very happy to be here. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jasmine Sandler. I have a mission for supporting women's growth, women in business and women in the arts. And Warrior Women in Business is much more than a podcast. It's a movement about helping women grow. And if you've listened to any of the previous episodes, or if you haven't, please listen to them because I have some great guests that talk about women supporting women. Last episode, I had a woman from across the pond in London. We're actually planning an event together. So the whole purpose of Warrior Women in Business through the podcast, the branding and marketing services that we provide, and our events and programs is really about bringing women together so that they don't struggle alone, especially the female entrepreneurs that are out there and really struggling. Before we get started today, I'm so excited to have Sandy on. She's like a blessing. You guys will all agree. I just wanted to mention a few things. So again, I'm Jasmine Sandler. I'm the host of Warrior Women in Business. The website is warriorwomenbusiness.com. It's all going to be in the show notes. But I wanted to thank, if you see my very cool headphones and my mic, I wanted to thank MXL Microphones for being our continued sponsor. If you don't know the backstory, I support through the company, we support women in the arts. We do a lot of programs. And I was speaking at a very large music industry event and came upon this company and just in about 30 seconds talked to them about Warrior Women in Business. And they said verbatim, we want to support women in business and women in the arts. So they kind of sent this over and I'm like, this is fantastic. So more companies need to be like them. Anyway, so getting started today, episode 42. I'm very, very happy to introduce Sandy Sembler. She's the CEO of SakredShe and Women's Embodiment Expert. So say hello, Sandy, to the audience.
Hi, it's so good to see you here. Oh, I agree. So many more people need to support us in business and have fun doing it. So I love how you actually support arts and such. Again, thank you for having me here today.
Absolutely. So we're going to dive right in. We were running a couple minutes late today. This always happens. People are used to it. But anyway, so we're going to dive right into the questions, and there's a lot to cover today. And also at the end, Sandy has, as we all know, with Warrior Women in Business, all our guests give away a free gift. And with Father's Day coming up, we have important things to talk about today as well. So first question, I know you have a very fascinating story about how you got to healing women. And we're going to talk about that today, right?
Yes,
so
definitely.
Can you share your career experience? Because most of my guests come from corporate and then they realize I want to help women. So can you talk a little bit about, Sandy, your career experience and how you got to healing women and like, what's your formula like a little bit?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, great question. Yeah, so I mean, I've pretty much been an entrepreneur, I think, since I was 12. My parents, had a direct sales business. And so I was around people that were movers and shakers. And pretty much, I like to say I brainwashed myself for the good with all the different tapes and tools. So I just have always had a heart for just being in business and serving. And so I have had, when I was in the banking industry and had my mortgage company, I really, really was able to see how there was such discrimination in some ways, but also that my gifts of my feminine intuition were not being utilized. And not that there was discrimination. What I mean is that just that beautiful gift that we all have of bringing more aliveness to a situation, it was that as well. So any situation I've been in, any businesses that I've owned, and I've owned plenty, is that I love to be able to allow women to be able to be fully expressed. And that's where this whole embodiment piece comes in. And so when I was in the mortgage business, able to actually work with people and develop the relationships. And we all know that business is relationships. And I think that's the number one reason why so many people, whatever industry you're in, whether it's corporate or you're an entrepreneur, you must get to know your audience and really genuinely care and slow down. And so for me, as I've been through other industries and how I got into this field, working in feminine embodiment and leadership, is about 10 years ago, I had an intervention with Tony Robbins. And I did not even understand at first what was happening, but I was super successful in my business. but I was not successful in my personal relationships with partners. And I really came face to that. Actually allowed me to see how many more women it looks good on the outside. They've checked all the boxes of everything that they ever thought they wanted when they were little, right? Except there's something, whether it's not, even if you're in a relationship, a partnership, or you have the dream job and the dream house and you've got the kids or whatever your story is. What I find is that so many women, and I honestly, Jasmine, they could be 18, 16, or they could be 92. I mean, I work with teens,
yeah,
right? And
sure,
I mean,
I understand.
Right. So there's something there. There's something there, like an itch that needs to be scratched. And the problem is that we have a tendency to just push it down, thinking that we can actually get to it later. So what I did is I shifted, my business coaching to really incorporate a lot of these methods that we now call the SakredShe method.
Okay, that's wonderful. One thing that, maybe my audience doesn't know that you didn't remark on, I didn't want to interrupt you, is so what companies were you with before? You mentioned
Yeah.
a company, so could you just
Yeah,
mention that?
I owned my own mortgage company for 10 years, and
Okay.
I sold that. I've been affiliated with Stella and Dot, which is a direct sales jewelry company, and
Right.
led large international teams, and and other businesses along the way. I'm a real estate investor, so I own like suites of apartment complexes and all.
Ah,
A girl,
wonderful.
I think I think there's all, to me, business is so much fun, and I like to have fun while I'm building business, and
100%.
it is so, I mean,
That's
why not?
that's the goal. That's the goal. So it's funny because you put real estate and business in one sentence, because as women we think about what's our end goal, and I personally have been thinking, is it real estate or is it business? And I said, nah, it's business, because business should be fun. So I love that you said that. And actually, a lot of my listeners and groups I'm involved with are women in real estate, and they're
Oh,
definitely
really?
they're definitely hungry for this information. Okay,
Yes.
so I know
I
we have a
love
lot to talk about, but my questions. Okay, so next question for the women that don't understand women's embodiment, feminine energy. Can you kind of define that and visualize that for us, please?
Mm-hmm. You're so fun. I love how energetic you are and alive. Your passion, it's infectious. I mean, that is your feminine energy, right? I mean, that's the feminine energy, and it
Yeah,
draws.
like that's me
I'm like,
behind me
I like, feel like
flying in the
I'm
air.
right there with you. You know,
Yeah.
embodiment, and that intervention I had with Tony really was about me. I was basically, a woman who was showing up and very much like a guy, meaning that I was so driven. I was very direct. There wasn't a lot of movement in my body. I wasn't really expressed. I had really shut down my heart, quite frankly. And so and business wasn't quite as fun as it is for me now. But embodiment really is around going beyond the mind and into the body through the art of this wisdom that we hold. And this is also true for men as well. This is not gender specific. The masculine, feminine lives in all of us, and there's a way that
Absolutely.
right, I love to teach people to harmonize that. So when you come back to the body, meaning like we're alive, we're all always in our body, but that doesn't mean that we're always aware of our body. And so embodiment's the process of becoming alive to the signals of our body, being fully aware of the emotions that we're experiencing moment to moment. And that allows our human experience to just be alive, open, integrated. And every moment gets to be something fantastic, even the moments when we didn't get the deal, even the moments when we have mommy guilt because we think we should be here, but we're not here. Even those moments, I truly believe, and I love that you are with the arts. I am too. I consider myself an artist of love in many ways. That every moment can be spectacular if we allow ourselves to feel it fully. A lot of times when I speak, my clients or a lot of women who come to work with me who were super successful, like I was, 10 years ago in that space. And they're like, well, if I get that in touch with my emotions, then I may lose control. People won't take it serious. I mean, right.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a natural instinct in business.
Of
I
course.
know we can talk about the masculine more, is that control issue. So I love that you brought that up, because it's something we don't talk about much on the podcast that I think is very important. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, I know that we provided a quiz. There's a quiz that my team we've created, and you get to actually see what your core essence is. Because just because we're women listening to this doesn't mean that you lead with your feminine energy. Because I know I did not. Now I'm able to draw in my masculine, which is, for example, getting here on time, setting up my Zoom.
Yes.
It's the masculine is the container
That's right.
that holds it all together, right? It's like the skin on our body. The
Mm.
feminine is going to be anything that you and I do in our little Zoom rectangles. The art that we actually are experiencing now is our full expression. And so, I obviously, when I'm teaching, I'm moving around. I'm very much in this feminine space, but we call it Zoom Redwood. If you when you on your next Zoom, pay attention to how you're sitting. If you're sitting straight like this, no movement in your body whatsoever, we call that the Zoom Redwood. And there's nothing wrong with
Interesting.
that, right?
Mhm.
There's some businesses where you don't want to be moving all around if you're at
Yeah,
a
yeah.
board meeting, but
Yeah.
there are ways that you can still bring some feminine expression, some feminine aliveness, even when you're sitting here. For example, like I have my orchid here. I have I have a sheepskin at my feet, right?
Yeah.
I have a candle here. So it reminds me to go back to the body. It reminds me to go back to the body. So
Mm.
there's little, nuances,
Mm.
and you find also, excuse me, mm, you're less tired, because if you allow it actually uses more muscles to not express than it does to
Absolutely.
express, right? Yeah,
Yeah, because you're holding yourself back, which goes
100%.
against the force of energy. I understand. Little
Yes.
bit of science here. I love science, so
Yeah.
I understand. No, it makes perfect sense. And the more it's funny because I notice with what we do at Warrior Women in Business, not just working with female entrepreneurs alone, but a lot of the events and just getting to know women.
Yeah.
What one thing that I noticed, because we do a lot of branding, and I noticed the color situation, that once women start to tap into like I hate to use the word like, but they get to tap into colors that they love, you
Yes.
see
Yes.
this feminine energy kind of come out, and like you said, it gives them more energy. I think it's a compound effect.
It
So
is. It is. And
is
you
that
mentioned,
yeah,
no, I'm with you. You mentioned science. I mean, I truly believe that we can actually we can envision where our life is going to be, and
yeah,
literally become that. And the feminine is around being, the masculine is around doing. And so many
yeah.
people think that
That
right,
is
that
the truth.
right.
Boy,
But
it
so
is the
many people
truth.
think that they're it's like an 8 to 5, and obviously, or 8 to 12, depending on 8 to 11 at night, whatever hours. And then
Yeah.
they let their hair down. Then they will, get in their feminine. But you're forgetting that it already lives within us, right? And
Yeah.
so, I'll give women, for example, when they are coming home, even if, their home office, and they walk through their office door, what's a practice that I can give them, an embodiment practice, which will allow them to actually be able to shut the brain off for work and be able to be fully present, because presence
Mm,
is the masculine, with their family here, or their partner, or going
mm,
out to lunch with either a client, or whatever it is, or the friend. There's a way that we actually really can shut off business without losing momentum in our business. And again, like I said, I have so many people that actually increase their bottom line by less efforting, and it is a skill. I have many people in the banking industry, and many realtors.
yeah.
Realtors love this work because
Yeah.
we're making, in fact, one of my most favorite clients, she's a highly successful commercial realtor, and she's used some of the way that we make art out of our emotions when she's doing her reels and things like that. And she is just this diva, and how she shows up in the commercial space, which is a very, very male dominated world. But
Absolutely. I'm in New
yeah.
York in the development world, so I understand.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my family is in development. So,
Mm,
even though I didn't love commercial real estate, because I wanted more relationship, and I saw so many people walk away from a deal on a dime. I'm more relational in that space, but I love what this client's done, and other clients in that space. So knowing that she can go shoulder to shoulder, with these men in business, and women. Let's face it, there's so many masculine women out
oh,
in the
that's
workforce, right?
We talked about that last episode. Yeah.
I know. You did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we did.
Oh.
we tackled that because, and that's why I asked Pinky to be on, because we just kind of had this conversation and we were just completely in line with that
Yeah.
issue that causes conflict and competition, which is what my whole mission is to get away from. So I agree with you.
Well, and the way to move away from it is actually to even address that it's there. I mean, I love quantum physics, believe it or not, and I think there's something to be said about being aware of it, which you just mentioned, then acknowledging, which you just did, and then there's an acceptance that comes, in the cycle and circle of life. Not that we have to resign to it, but to even just acknowledge it in that space energetically, then we're able to actually make a change. It's when we try to push something away or boycott it. I don't care if it's love. I don't care if it's even having a baby or a new deal or moving, or even this issue where there's so much competition, not just with men, with us being somewhat intimidated by us or discriminatory, but women. I mean, that probably is the number one thing that women come and talk to me about when they lead teams,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so I wanted to give some actionable tips, right? Because a lot of the female entrepreneurs that we work with as clients and come to the events, and just women that I talk to, they're usually, like you said, I think we're very synonymous in terms of supporting high-powered women.
Yeah.
In every sense. It could be an artist, it could be a musician like myself, it could be a business owner, it could be a real estate person. They're high-powered in the sense that they have this kinetic energy, this, they're very sharp and they can go places, but they get stuck, right? And I feel like there's a couple areas they get stuck, and I want you to talk about some actionable tips they can take. So one is definitely in the overwhelmed space, because trying to be masculine and feminine at the same time is very hard, right?
Well,
so what are like 1 to 2 actionable steps that they can take when they feel stuck based on overwhelm or a problem addressing boundaries?
Got it. Well, and I'll say this too. I mean, we'll back with just a few sentences ago, is that it's hard until it's not, because what I love to teach is how this becomes who you are, and you'll find that your brain and your body will start remembering that. So that's why we use embodiment practices to be able to anchor these things in. So a great actionable tip is, first off, redefining what stuck means in the first place. Perhaps instead of that we're stuck, it's actually the embodiment. Your body is going, wait a minute, something needs to shift right now. And that could literally be in that moment for you to just pause and just shake your hands, like literally just shake your hands and just let some energy. That's your body going, please feed me, feed me, feed me. I need to either release or I need to be fed. It could be going outside and your hands up to the air. It can be, like I said, you and I talked about the pom-poms,
That's right. We did talk about the pom-poms.
Right.
I asked you to have them on. That's right.
Yeah. How do you bring more joy? But they're always with me, right? I mean, how do you bring more joy into your life and make each moment something that you can celebrate? And so that feeling of stuckness comes as, instead of feeling like it's bad, it's more like, what is this trying to teach me? Number one. The other thing is that I love what I'm doing, my workshops on calendar planning, as you must, to make things feel like it isn't arduous and a chore. If you can attach a more compelling meaning, a feeling around it, to think about how you want to feel at the end of the day, how you want to feel at the end of the task, and that will change the game, and you'll find that you'll be pulled towards the thing versus away. Even going to the grocery store can be something that's an experience. Right? Yeah. I promise you it can. I promise you.
The grocery store.
Well, listen, I mean,
it's funny. We always joke about that at home. How much I don't want to go to the grocery store. So,
well,
no, I don't. I don't like the grocery store because I have the very masculine side of, I just want to get in and get out, and it can be overwhelming.
Well, and so I would give you,
and I'm not the only person that feels that way.
I'm sure. And I'm just using that as an example because most grocery stores, have the doors that just open. So the next time you walk through the door, I mean, imagine yourself, you walk through the door and it's like, yes, I've arrived, literally with your hands up in the air. And then you start there, because it is this art of embodiment, we're giggling about it. I wasn't this expressive, 10 years ago. I was very, very shut down, and my life was abundant, but I wasn't fulfilled. And so these moments like this, I would
Big
teach you
difference.
the S walk, to be able to walk down the aisle,
Oh,
to go
yeah.
get your can of black beans instead of
Yeah.
the mask of going and getting it. How could you actually slow down one foot over the other? It sounds silly, but your hips start moving, and the women have so much tension locked in their hips.
Absolutely.
And there's exercises that I give you to release some of that, and exercises that you can. And I say it's not exercise where you're gonna be sweating, but it could be nonlinear movement like dancing, or it could be skipping. I mean, honestly, Jasmine, I think the number one emotion most women come and they share that they haven't tapped into is joy. And joy is much different than happiness. Joy is something that lives inside of us all the time that we can tap into like that. Happy, for me, the way I see it, is a little more circumstantial. So, but remember, your body keeps score. And so your body's keeping score all the time, trying to go back to homeostasis. And generally homeostasis is going to be more of a survival state. And so survival for us could be going back to our calendar, our to do. But if we don't intentionally add juice to that calendar, and what I like to say too, another tip is to live your day in hindsight. Again, how do you want to they feel? And then that way, every moment, I do this for New Year's. And my mentor taught me this. At the end of the year, how do you want to view your year? And if you know you're going to be looking at different pictures over the year, I guarantee you won't waste another day, at the end of the day going, God, where did the day go? Because each moment for a woman embodied, each moment is an awakened experience. And I'm not just talking about the sensual, like sexual side of this. I mean that even when you're eating your salad, when is the last time you slowed down and allowed yourself to chew? And then another exercise, a very simple one, is to slow down and to speak on the exhale. Speak on the exhale. Well, one of my certifications, I studied 100 men over a full year, and every month we'd have like a thesis. And what I loved is 99 out of the 100 said that they loved a strong woman who was voluntarily vulnerable. And that voluntary vulnerable is that we were women who could take care of ourselves. Now, these were healthy men, mind you, healthy men who actually appreciate and celebrate.
Big difference.
Right? Big difference. And so, but they knew that they didn't have to take care of us, but that we got to choose that we would surrender our leadership to this man. It could be our father, it could be even our son, it could be even the person opening up the door for us, helping us with our luggage on the plane. I mean, and I have a lot of women who come in here that are feminists, because I consider myself a feminist as well. But I do believe that we can go shoulder to shoulder with men and other women and actually celebrate and honor each other. There's something huge about that. So if we live our life in hindsight, back to what I was sharing, is every moment becomes a moment that you don't want to just waste,
Yeah. I love that I love those tips. The calendars, because the calendar, I want to comment on this, right? So we get taught a lot, entrepreneurs, if they study with business coaches, for example, right? They get taught the importance of the calendar, but it's the calendar for the sake of business and structure. It's not so much the calendar for the sake of loving your time. So I love that you're talking about that, because that gives us the permission as a musician. One of the best pieces of advice I've heard is professional singers take their time. So every time I rehearse, I think about that, but I take it to the next level, right? As a female entrepreneur and a woman in business, the importance of, like you said, taking our time. I love that you talked about that, and then coupling that with that very cool exercise of living in hindsight, because so we get the memories of the day from last year, right? Showing up in our calendars, and we want them to be beautiful. I love that, Sandy. That's very important, I think, for women to understand.
Me goosebumps. Yeah, that gave me goosebumps. And, it's interesting. I mean, I have so many, different embodiment tips. I mean, this is one that may send the audience like, what is she doing? But they're literally, it's called gibberish practice. You get really frustrated, and, it could be your kids in the back seat. It could be, your superior or your employees, whatever it is. And you just want to kind of let go. Like, oh my gosh. And you start negative things, even into your brain. shut the door, mute yourself, and literally speak gibberish and tell me,
It's funny.
tell me. So for example, there was this, I'm looking at a note here that my team gave me, and I'm going to speak, if I'm feeling frustrated, like, blah, 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 blah. And so you speak gibberish, but what it does, it scrambles the signals in the brain. And so it's like ants marching in a line. If you drew your finger in front of the ants, then they scatter. Our thoughts,
That's true.
every thought that we think gets embedded in this beautiful computer up here. And we better be more intentional about what we're putting in there, but we're human. So why not then scramble it? So I have women around the world doing this gibberish practice. It's just, you just basically, but you'll feel better because you'll giggle, but
it makes sense. Yeah.
You're able to get it out, and your brain doesn't know what you're saying. It just knows that you're releasing. But if you said, oh gosh, did they do that again? How could they miss that date?
Yeah, then it's gonna.
I need to hire that. Yes. So why anchor that in? Why not instead? I'm not saying avoid it, which is what most people do, which is why they stay stuck. Acknowledge it and but that's also why, like, our bodies are tuning for us, Jasmine. We're always, we are the frequency of who we're around, what we're putting in our bodies, food, social media, news, whatever it is.
Yes.
And so if we believe that we're a satellite also, and that we're always transmitting, we are a walking advertisement of who we are, of our heart center, right? And this beautiful feminine intuition. If you know that and you're more aware of it, and my role is to help you be more aware, so you can actually, see others, but also experience it. The feminine wants to experience everything. The masculine actually, wants to save time and be more directive. We need them both.
Absolutely.
I can imagine that a lot of your audience, because I was like this too, that would get so annoyed at a very feminine woman. I thought they were
absolutely,
hair blonde, whatever I was saying.
That's the truth in life, Sandy. That's so true.
So but generally what I find when I dissect it, I found for me what it was is there was a little bit of a jealousy when I went to the feelings underneath the feelings. I'm very much about what's underneath. Like, what was that trigger about anyway? What was
because they always have to be so armored, and they're not able to release that, right?
Yeah, and so these these moment to moment practices is that, what is it about this woman that is irking you? Is it that she can express herself? Does she seem happy? Or is it that she's taking so long to get there? Like I mentioned, going to the grocery store, go get that can of beans, walking directed, right? I know you're in the city, so obviously you move fast anyway.
Yeah.
But if you allow yourself to slow down, and then allow that to be a beautiful experience, you'll find that, the grocery store won't seem so arduous. But yeah, that moment to moment practice is really, really key. And to why is this woman annoying us? Is it because she's taking her time? And I'll go back to the men real quick. One of the things that men said, and I really, really had to learn this, was the staccato cadence of our speech. And a lot of the, I was speaking to a client the other day who delivered a keynote, and she said it was so interesting, the feedback that she received was so positive, because even as she was speaking to thousands of people, I've taught her how to have her voice almost feel like it's a hug, like hugging the audience, not like kumbaya, but
right, yeah.
It was powerful. The masculine directive was powerful, but the way that she was able to speak, it was like this beautiful hug, and people trusted her more. Men said that staccato cadence, they feel like they're like, ugh. So think about our children, because this is the interesting thing. Like, mothering is actually quite masculine. Did you do your homework? Did you? That's true. The art of a mother, though, is the nurturing part. And so I have a lot of empathy for single moms, because I was one for years, where, we're doing both parts. But if you go deeper, because I like to always take it deeper, it's not just we're doing all the things. It's actually, we really are in our masculine more because we're working, but we also are mothering our kids with really probably only a little bit of time, maybe tucking them in at night to nurture them. And that's why if we don't get intentional, and the way I'm sharing here, and I go into my programs and my clients, is intentional on how can we work in those moments where we bring in more nurturing for ourselves. And I call it like husbanding ourselves almost, right? Like how do we actually love ourselves, like we would want our lover to? That changes the game. Or how would we want how did we want to be mothered? Or I know we're going to talk about the father energy too, with Father's Day coming up, but
both are equally as important, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, depending on what you're lacking.
Yeah.
So we don't have time to go into a whole book, which I could, but I want to talk a little bit about, I'm going to shift gears for half of a second, and I'm going to talk about there's so many women's programs out there, right? So many that bring women together in certain environments and, try to or do build a sense of community, right? Some succeed and some fail. I'm just being dead honest, right?
Yeah.
So I know that you have the SakredShe program, right? Yeah. And I think one of the things I'd like to understand from you, because it's successful, and for my audience to understand again on the importance of women supporting women. How have you seen women coming together, right? When they come together with individual goals, right? Because they do, right? They're coming because they have an individual need. Right. So how do you see them coming together with individual needs and in a group setting, how does that help to support them versus one-on-one?
Yeah, that's great. It's interesting too. A lot of my one-on-one clients actually will, be a big part of the community as well. Even because they find that they may have a mother wound or a sister wound, what have you. And so I want them to be in my container, so my group, so they can actually practice. Everything's a practice. A brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not. So being able to answer your question, come in with an individual intention, but then also the toxic masculine, like, oh my God, hurry up, get to me. I need to get my question answered. Please, my question. How about if we actually experience the other woman? And this is training. I mean, it is natural that we are in a primal space of, is the saber-toothed tiger going to come and get us? Is this person trustable? Can I trust this person? And so the key is that to literally train your body to be able to celebrate another woman. Now, that could be bypassing for some. So obviously I'm in a space of a healing transformation. I'm in a space of helping women, work with what they already have within them, because we really have it in them, but there's something dormant. And that's why, I was sharing with you, I talk about rewilding, reignite. And so if we can get curious, the feminine's very curious about the woman sitting across the table from us, not what we can get from her, but just curious and observe her, in her element, that's key. The other thing is, in my containers, I really teach this radical honesty. And listen, I know we're taught not to judge, but let's the space that we all judge, right? And so if we actually know that, what is that judgment saying? And then like in my groups, we don't, I have women from all walks of life, honestly. And, some of them on the brink of divorce, some of them, single, some of them like high powered executives, and they never thought they wanted to be in partnership, whatever it is. But I mean, how can they come in as one, because we are woman and we're one with man even as well. So you come in with that philosophy, get curious about the woman across from you, ask, versus coming into a container where some women are talking over each other, or they're offering their feedback. Most people offer their feedback or advice unsolicited, which makes those groups very unsafe. I don't care if it's a social setting or a business setting. What I love, and it was so super about, leading women's circles, right, was, are you open to a reflection? Are you open to some feedback? Those two questions alone, I mean, already make that relationship and that space so much safer and healthier, because that you may be just in a space where you just want to be heard. Most women, the feminine in all of us, wants to be seen, heard, understood, and feel safe. Right. The masculine wants to feel, doesn't want to feel controlled, and they want to feel our openness, and they don't want to be criticized.
That's right. Definitely.
key to, and some of that has to do honestly with childhood programming. So that's why I work a lot with belief
100%.
systems. Because
Yeah.
just saying it, we need to honor another woman. And that may be hard when you were, I mean, your experience of women growing up, maybe even from your own mom, was not one that was honestly honoring of yourself. And also I believe in generational. I mean, some of this stuff is just in our
Yeah.
DNA, and
Right.
that's why I like to use a lot of healing work there. Some of it's not even our fault, Jasmine. It's just
Well,
stuff.
no, I mean, that's why I hate judgment. Literally, I'm gonna make another T-shirt. Warrior Women is a whole fashion line, and I think I'm gonna have one. It's like no judgment, because you never know where somebody is coming from, and
Right.
and those things, like you said. I mean, we run programs and we raise money for shelters, domestic violence shelters
Wonderful. Yes.
here in New York, and because you never know where somebody is coming from.
Well, I
So
love
I
that.
love that you talked about that, because I think
Yeah.
that's so important for women to understand when they are working with other women or
Well,
in a group set in your SakredShe, when they're in like the vulnerability and the openness.
well, you learn how, and I tell you, the women, I know you've watched some of the testimonials and
I
such,
have, yeah.
women have much different view of women, of patience, and also their friendships are deeper. They move away from the more topical conversations, and they're able to
Yeah.
appreciate people. And I agree, judgment stinks, and we all do it. So if we, like I said earlier about being stuck, instead of making stuck something wrong, okay, we're judging. It's kind of like Byron Katie's work. But then what does that judgment mean? And so I could say, I judge you to be a woman who is highly successful, highly passionate, and highly leads with her heart. And that changes the game of even what the word judgment means. Do you see what I'm saying?
It's a positive connotation.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Cool?
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. I mean, well, again, I don't want to go too far off the tangent because I'm looking at the time. Okay, so this question I ask all my guests, and you are, Sandy, I gotta say, if any of you have seen Sandy's headshot, she's such a warrior woman, like my poster behind me. So, so tell us what you think when you hear the term. When I told you after we got to know each other, hey, I have a podcast called Warrior Women.
Yeah.
What does that term mean to you?
Well, if you would have asked me that 10 years ago, it would have been, right? When I hear warrior woman now, because I teach, there's 10 women that lives in each woman. Okay. And there is this way that we champion. And so when I hear warrior woman in business, I hear a woman who is experienced in all things, and she's learned how to alchemize her experiences into a way where she's able to share her gifts to the world. And I don't mean bubblegum pop. I mean, she's a warrior that she will fight for what she believes in, but she also knows when to lean back and allow. There's a way, it is this harmonization of this masculine and feminine that I talked about, that your audience can, learn more about on the quiz and such. So to me, a woman who is this warrior woman in business is a woman who moves away from hustle culture, quite frankly, and trust her intuition. She knows that she's on her throne, and she doesn't have to be efforting and trying. And I'm not saying we have to sit back and eat bonbons and the success will come, but I mean that she allows her experience in the world, and there's power in that. It's like this lioness, waiting to pounce. She's not out there salivating, pacing back and forth. She's literally just sitting back like this, just waiting. And as we did the new branding, as I used my old site was like full of me smiling and all the things, because that's where I was back then. I'm still smiling and such, but my point is there's a way that we can be more directed in our movement. There's a way that we can be have more that elder wisdom. I don't care how old you are and where you are in your business. If you're just launching now, or you've been in business for 50 years, there is a way that we can be proud and tap into the innate wisdom of our life's experiences, and not just lean on the doing. And it's really, it is the key to this the feminine intuition, because we know things that others don't know. The problem is that we're efforting and putting more emphasis on the doing part versus just, okay, let's just slow down. because it's in our slowness sometimes that we actually get the most downloads, and we are respected more. Like I mentioned, my client, giving that keynote speech.
Yeah. No, I love it. I was thinking when you were talking, I was thinking about The Lion King.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, but I love that movie.
Mhm.
Anyway, so
Same.
I was thinking about how like beautiful the lion and lionesses are, and they don't necessarily need to go and hunt because they are sought after, and the power
Yes.
comes to them. But know and understand their power.
Yeah, girl, I got
And they
goosebumps.
embody
Woo,
that. No, I'm
woo.
very much like a visual person, and
Same.
when I hear something, I always go to a story, and so that's what I heard, and I love that. I think that makes like a ton of
Wow.
sense. And one thing that we talk about all the time, and you know what I talk about all the time in my branding work, is everyone is different.
Yes.
So if everyone's different and everyone's owning the power that you talk about, then you do the efforting. I love that word that you used. Such a good word,
Yeah.
because you won't have to do all this, and I'm guilty of it too, right? Because I have
You're
so
just
much
like
going.
me.
I have
Yep.
so much going on. It's bananas, right? So it's like I always feel like I'm efforting all of these things, but I don't need to necessarily if I let the intuition flow and know that this is the right direction, this is the right decision. And I love that. That's just so
Well,
eloquent. I really
thank
have to say, Sandy, that was very eloquent.
Oh, thank you. And I'll share this too. It's interesting. One of my teachers shared this with me, and I used this before I even, agree to go on a podcast, for example, or when I was single, go out on a date, or, if I want to take on this client, is like, God, creator, universe, whatever it is for you, but God for me, like, show me how to love myself and love this person, place, or thing unconditionally, reveal their true nature. And if this is not a home or a person or what have you, that it's not within your will, make it not be, for my best and highest good, with grace and ease. You see that? So make it not be. I used to
Mm,
be a woman who would just manifest. Yeah, I would manifest. I wouldn't manifest. I would just go make it happen.
I
And then,
understand.
right. And then I look back and go, why in the world did I even do that?
Yes.
I didn't even want that deal.
I didn't
I didn't-
want that. Right. I didn't
right.
want that. Yeah, I don't
Right.
know.
So
Why
that
do
is
we, right?
huge.
That's
It's
such
been
a
huge
wonderful realization. It really is for everyone.
for everyone.
For
Yeah.
everyone. And I do think that, I mean, in relationships, a lot of times to look back and say, what was I thinking? You work with
We weren't.
somebody.
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
That's
And
the problem. Our feeling.
yeah, that's
I have a
wonderful.
beautiful
Mm,
yes or no practice where you
mm.
literally learn how to honor the yes or no in your body. It
Oh,
is, our body is always letting us know something. And I find that women who actually, I mean, I'm sure this doesn't surprise you, that are in the bigger cities, they've shut down, basically the bottom half of their body, which is where our passion is, our,
that
our
is the
passion,
truth.
our drive. I mean, even our drive, but even that
Yeah.
part of us that makes things so juicy, that's where, the greed is, or the wealth is, or the abundance, and even the gratitude, right, is, it can be blocked. So the more that I can share to allow women to feel the feelings, even when it's icky. I mean, I have a sacred rage practice. We're going to be angry sometimes. If we stuff it, it's going to whack-a-mole someplace else. So why not,
That's right.
give yourself permission.
Hence the generational problem of domestic violence. Wow, I could talk for 10 hours on it.
Me too.
But you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
So I love that. Okay, so I want to keep going because it's almost 1. So we could talk. I know we could talk for hours, but I don't know if my audience has all this time. Okay, so next question, which is really, really important. I'm going to pause and say extremely important, is Father's Day is coming up.
Yeah.
It's coming up, and I'm getting all these emails this morning like, yay, it's Father's Day. To me, I won't talk about that on the podcast, but I will say that a lot of us have father's wounds.
Yes.
Right? And it affects us as women in how we choose our business, our careers, our partners, right?
Yeah.
And I know that you wrote a great article on this. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. It hit home. Like, I was like, damn, I love this article. So talk to us about father's wounds for those of us, those that don't know what that means, and how it might negatively affect a woman in business, and what you do around that.
Well, first off, I just want to acknowledge what you shared. And I think my drive really kicked in, but I know it did when I was 12, and he when he left my mom. He left my mom, and our house closed after that. And then here comes a warrior. Here's Sandy at 12, warrior. Like, I will never let that happen to me again.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And it gets anchored in. I mean, listen, our nervous systems are always working. So I love to regulate the nervous system. So first I want to honor that, and also say I have a huge heart for domestic violence awareness too. I that was part of my old story. And so I would love to be a part of whatever you're doing out there in the world.
Well, we could do it in Florida.
Honestly. I would love it, but off the grid, I'm happy to go anywhere. I will say, because no one would have known that I was going through domestic violence, because I looked good and smelled good, but it was severe, and so I left years ago, and so I support that so much. So thank you for bringing that to our awareness too. But back to your question about the father wounds is. My dad, before he passed, we did reconcile and such, but it really shows up in trust issues, a sense also of self-worth. So we will find that we do more. We become an overachiever. We focus on that doing versus the being. And I did a camp, a camp for these teens here in Florida, and it was interesting. They were 8 to 12 years old, so they were preteens too. So asking them what their most proud moment was of the of the last month, and all of them except 1 out of 20 said something that they had achieved. I got. There was only one little girl who said, I'm most proud of the fact that I looked in the mirror and I let myself cry and I didn't look away. And I was like, yes, right. So because she was focused on the being, and we really need to be mindful of what do we celebrate, what are we praising our children for, even the boys, right? So there's that. These beliefs are anchored in a long time ago. Emotional instability is another one. Women may struggle with mood swings, anxiety, or depression. There's also this perfectionism that comes, burning the candle at both ends, not thinking that you get enough done. The intimacy issues there can be where we struggle with even our sexual expression. There's a lot of rebellious or over sexualized behavior. There's also that feeling of abandonment, right? Or we have this like residue of like all men, like, yeah, you passive man, like who
right.
But that satellite, right? What we're putting out there, you better believe that that's being reflected back to us. So that's why the healing work, I'm not, I don't just teach people how to be in relationship or in business or their personal life. It's more like, who do you need to be in order to have the life that you want? There's a lot of emotionally unavailable partners, truly. And you'll notice that I have a lot of women who come here who may have a bit like their work wife or their work husband, right? Whether it's they're in corporate or it could be their business partner and their business. They find that it'll mirror match, what they experience as kids, and they see this cycle. Because the cycle will always,
like a magnet, huh?
It is. So we need to upgrade the frequency. We need to upgrade how we're showing up, heal those pieces that are causing us to have those rigid boundaries. And some women may have very loose boundaries if there's a father wound there. But that I do see that emotionally unavailable pattern of bringing in partners because it feels familiar. We're always trying to take ourselves home. So we have to and I know we're going to do a masterclass on this that we'll be sharing the link for, on my channels, but I want women to understand that this is not something they just have to live with, right? Even if there was, sexual abuse, you don't have to just live with this and wear it as a cloak. There's a way that you can alchemize those emotions, and you can shift the way that you see men. And I mean, there's a way I teach women how to husband themselves. And one of the neatest things I did when I was on my healing journey to heal the patterns that had me attract the same people in my life, clients in my life that were hard to please or whatever the heck it was years ago. Was actually learning how to show up, like I mentioned earlier, as if I was fathering myself or if I was husbanding myself, like what would that look like? And I basically for 90 days, I went on what I like to call the masculine cleanse, where I healed my relationship with my own masculine. my own, not just with men, but my own masculine energy. And I started looking like, how can I celebrate the man in front of me? My son, for example, the UPS driver. How can I train my mind and body to find what is trustable? I know that at 1 o'clock, the doorman is going to be there to open my door. If those micro moments, those micro embodied moments will allow us to learn how to, to trust more. So it's a big topic for me as well. I mean, this time, which is why I didn't want to do the master class before Father's Day. I really wanted to let it sit with me, as I've, teased apart some other things with my dad. And, I know he did the best he could, but that still doesn't mean that it didn't affect little Sandy, then teenager Sandy, and then even Sandy today at 52. So
right.
it's a beautiful, beautiful way
Yeah.
to not ignore it, but to actually face it and then go, how can we dance with this? How can we actually make art with this? Even if there was immense pain. And, whether your father wasn't there or he was, but he wasn't there, or he was there, he made sure he was there, whatever it is. But it's big. And that's why so many women who are successful, they either had a dad who loved them to death, but kind of wanted a guy. So she
So I've had lots of those clients, actually. It's interesting.
I love them. I'm one of my besties.
I love them too. I think they're great. Yeah.
But there's a way though, there's a way also to see why we're doing. And I'm not saying that, like one of my best friends, she talks about that. She did my program too. And she's like, she's so successful, but she said, I just wanted my dad to treat me like my brother. And now she's learned how to bring in more of this feminine space and to tap into her femininity, where she's even more successful now, but she's healed that piece that was the conditional way that she would receive accolades. She's okay not getting all the awards. She's not going to the award. And then the world responds, the world responds. It's fascinating.
Yeah. No, and what's interesting, and I think what you're saying is really great. It's about healing that, because you don't unless you're aware, you're not going to know how that's affecting your everyday life. And I think with Father's Day coming up, I love that you face it in a way that, I think, to go back to your calendar point, actually, Sandy, to face it in a way that's exciting, that's something that you're looking forward to. So, I think celebrating Father's Day for yourself, it sounds like, is something that women can do if they have this issue, which we come across all the time.
Well, there's a way we could trick them. Our brain doesn't know the difference. Between what's real and what's not. So if it's necessary, a masculine reconciliation, they may never, ever do this live with their father or their partner or their son. But this was very healing for me when I did this with my son, is, apologize for all the times I emasculated him. As you know, I have a course around, sacred respect, about how to no longer emasculate men. We don't even realize when we interrupt them. We don't realize that when we tell them what to do or we criticize, but this is also the masculine within us. And since we're warrior women and we're out there in the world, but even when we interrupt each other, we can actually emasculate, disrespect the woman in front of us by overstepping our boundaries. So it's an interesting nuance, the way I like to teach that. And it's so vital. And I find that, women are like laying down their swords of emasculation all around the world, realizing, you know what? I can go shoulder to shoulder and use what God gave me. And I don't mean like, what God gave us.
I understand.
You know what I mean? But this thing here and this not, you tie in your this beautiful brain, the sixth center, with our heart and the energy around what makes us woman. And I mean, you cannot stop us. That is what makes us a warrior.
Period. Women are very powerful. Okay, so we've run over time. A couple things. Before my last question to you, I got one lining up with Warrior Women in Business, so everybody knows.
Great.
So, so first of all, I mean, this episode was so amazing, enlightening, freeing. I have so many adjectives. Thank you, Sandy.
Love it.
And helping others. I mean, we're here to help, right? So this podcast will be edited and shared with those of you that subscribe to our newsletter, please, because in our newsletter, we give all the post show notes, all our free gifts, all the things that we're doing to support women in the community. That's warriorwomenbusiness.com. We have so many events coming up. I'm a little insanely busy, so I just want to quickly mention them. So June 27th here in New York City in the Warrior Women headquarters, which is a beautiful space in Long Island City. I have a dear friend of mine that was on a previous podcast, and I've been to her healing events, and she's from Peru, and she does something with cacao. It's really very cool.
Yeah, it's a heart opener. Cacao is I use that too in ceremony. It's beautiful. So that's
you guys would totally get along.
Yeah.
So anyways, so she's going to be doing a little bit of breath work because every summer I usually do a workshop on getting female entrepreneurs ready to work on their business. I find, I don't know if you agree with me, but a lot of women and men look at the summer and they say, this is when I'm going to get everything in order, right? Because they have the downtime. Right. So the workshop is about helping you to develop your brand and business strategy with some breath work so you can actually have some fun and be grounded. We're going to have food, drink, shopping. It's going to be a blast. This June 27th, July 18th, we're flying over to the West Coast. We're doing a Warrior Women cocktail hour at Roy's, which is a very famous restaurant that's being donated to us. Beautiful. On Cannon Drive on Beverly Hills. It's 150 women. It is networking, shopping, Warrior Women drinks. It's going to be a blast. That's coming up.
That's fun. That sounds lovely.
You can come out, Sandy. We'd love to have you.
I'm loving it. And I love that you're acknowledging breath work too. We use breath work as well. I'm certified in breath work too. It's so important. We don't even realize that we aren't breathing, and like your audience now just to slow down and go, are you breathing from here or are you breathing from here? So I love that you're incorporating that. It's beautiful. Yeah,
super important. The last thing I want to mention is I'm in the throes of planning our first international Warrior Women event. With Pinky, who I interviewed I guess last time or the time before, from Net Women in the UK. So she's going to be doing all the hard work, Pinky. I'm just flying over there, and so we're going to have a cocktail hour London style, and that's the first week of August that will be introduced. So we have all of that going on, and then we have our fashion line. Any 5% of all sales go to support domestic violence, women with disabilities, all of the programs that we are involved with here in New York to help women succeed. So all of that being said, it's all on Warrior Women Business. You can check out social media or website for that information. But back to you, Sandy. So I know that you have so many great programs, from your one-on-ones to your masterclass to your SakredShe. I love the anger one. I'm very interested in getting all my Warrior Women involved with that one because we're New Yorkers. It's very tough. Yeah. So, but I know you have a free gift. You have a quiz, right? So just talk about that, what your free gift is, and we're going to put that in the show notes for people to take advantage of.
For sure. Yeah, so there's a quiz, and it will give you kind of a deep dive into what this masculine feminine work is. It's sandysembler.com/quiz. I know you're going to provide that. And then also, we had talked about abundance and gratitude, and there's a way that I call the art of gratitude. There's a way that you can embody more graciousness, more grace into your everyday life. And so I prepared, it's a meditation with a little bit of hypnosis there too. Really quite beautiful. It's one of my most popular, downloads for people. So both of those are available. But I say really to what is your core nature? Take the quiz, see, where you stand there. And if you have questions, of course, there's ways people can reach out. I have my one-on-one mentorships. I also have my signature sisterhood, which is a 6-month journey. I have self-study courses and some other mini courses along the way. And those can be found on my website. And also how to get in touch with me. I'm on all the channels. Instagram is probably one of my favorites, as well as we're going back into LinkedIn and really adding some spice to LinkedIn. Even though we are women in business, I mean, why not make it more artful? Why not make it more fun? So those are some that women can get in touch with me.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so for everyone, we're going to be providing all of that in the show notes. I definitely think I've done it myself. So I'm always my own guinea pig in life. I did the quiz. I loved it. It was fun. So I think everybody should take the quiz. And also, if you have a mate or a friend, you should share it with them. Because anybody in your circles is going to affect you. And we want all the Warrior Women in business to be successful. And I know Sandy is a big catalyst for that. So I think taking the quiz is important. I love the download. So we're going to share that. But we're completely out of time. We're over time. So I want to thank you, Sandy, so much for being on. And, you know, you've taught me a lot in this 45 minutes or however much time we've been on. And yeah, and so I'm sure we'll do a Warrior Women event with Sandy. So you guys can look out for that. We'll be on the planning. So for that, we're signing off from Warrior Women in Business, episode 42. Please look out for the events, new podcast guests, everything that we have going on warriorwomenbusiness.com. From Jasmine Sandler, I want to thank everybody for being on, and thank you, Sandy, so much for being our guest today.
Thank you so much. I received that. See you.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.